everyone.
My name is Elisha Winkel.
And welcome to my Pollen Talk.
Welcome to my Pollen Talk.
In the next 5 minutes, I want to introduce you to the topic of sustainable transport in rural areas in Germany. And I will take the point of view of an NGO that wants to address this topic and provide recommendations for the national level of government. Just a few days ago, the German Federal Minister for the Environment presented the preliminary statistics on greenhouse gas emissions for the country in 2019, and her communication can be boiled down as follows. Okay, so let's start on slide 2. The emissions have decreased by 6.3%, which is a very positive trend. However, she also pointed out that they have not decreased across all sectors, but they have even increased in some, namely in the building and transport sectors. What's the problem here? Svenja Schulze said that in transport, generally vehicles have become more economical and use less fuel. But the problem is that the total size of the motor vehicle fleet has grown, so we have more cars and hence more fuel is burned. Now, what does this have to do with rural areas? Let's go to slide 3. I just pointed out on the previous slide how transport contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, and I also want to emphasize that mobility is a very important social issue because it enables people in a society to access education, work, medical services, and so on. In Germany, we have roughly 20% of the population living in rural areas. These areas face the challenge of demographic change, especially these areas. So the population is growing older, while at the same time people move away and go into the cities. In mobility politics, these areas are often disregarded. There's no policy instrument on a national level that explicitly addresses this, and public transport is basically limited to transporting school children. As a consequence, we have a large amount of people that depend on using a car due to a lack of sustainable alternatives. How can we address this topic? I want to introduce you to the institutional framework in Germany on slide 4. So basically, the country is divided into 3 levels of government. The national level, the regional level, 16 Bundesländer, and the local level, which consists of districts and cities. Regarding transport, the national level provides major financing and refers all further responsibilities to smaller levels. I would still argue, however, that changes can be achieved on a national level with policies that are not necessarily designed for transport, and I want to introduce you to those on my last slide, slide 5. First of all, I would call for revising the financing instruments that are currently in place. In the current legislation periods, the funds for public transport have increased, and this is a very positive trend. But experts have found a major loophole in one of these laws, and they estimate that actually 50% of the new funding will actually fail to reach its goal and not help funding public transport at all. Another problem is that public transport is largely financed by its users in Germany. In rural areas, this is economically not viable, and hence we should assess alternative financing methods. We could learn from our neighboring countries, for example. In France, there's a transport tax, the versement transport, which largely covers public transport. Another opportunity would be to include indirect beneficiaries of infrastructure, like we already do with roads, for example. So why not extend this to public transport? Another recommendation would be to foster alternative modes of transport. The Straßenverkehrsordnung, for example, sets the rules of road traffic, and changes here could contribute to making cycling safer, for example, and hence promote alternative ways of mobility. Furthermore, Germany still doesn't have a national speed limit on motorways, and this is regularly addressed. Setting speed limits could definitely contribute to cut emissions, but it will also increase safety and promote alternative ways of transport. Lastly, I want to emphasize the role of rural transport as a social issue. In some parts of Germany, we already have so-called Bürgerbus initiatives, which are community-based transport services where citizens drive for other citizens. The Land Baden-Württemberg has already decided to fund these initiatives, and this could also be a model for national funding. So I already exceeded my time, and I want to thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to your feedback and your comments, and I finally also wanted to thank you for handling this special situation the way you did and making sure that we can all finish the course. Okay, goodbye.